Morning, G67 and E67 kids. I want to go over this worksheet with you. First of all, this is worksheet 8.1AB. It has the wrong title on it. I apologize for that. Okay, combining like terms. Here we have 7V plus 6V. All you need to do is add those numbers, 7 plus 6, and that's 13. And it's actually 13V because you have 7V's and you have 6V's. So therefore, it's 13V. Take a look at this one. You have 2K, and you're taking away 1K, or 2K minus 1K. Well, you've simply got a K left over, or 1K. However you want to put it. Either way is fine with me. This next one gets a little trickier. Now you have minus 8x, and you have minus 10x. Well, let's think about it. This is really like a plus, a minus. This always helps me. So now you have minus 8x plus a minus 10x. Well, those are same signs. They're both negative, so we just add them. 18x, and we keep the negative sign. Keep the sign. Add and keep, remember? All right, let's move on to the next section, which gets a little bit harder. Now we're going to distribute things. Let's start over here on 16. I'm going to put my arrows in because I always do. I'm the arrow guy. Now we have to distribute out the 8. So we have 7 x's, and we're going to take it 8 times. So 8 times 7 is 56, and it's 56x because you're actually taking 8 times those 7 x's. Now you're going to add to that 8 times 8, which is 64. So you have 56x plus 64. Let's take a look at this one right here. Same thing, fairly straight up. 8 times r, or 8 times 1r, is simply 8r. And then we have 8 times 1, we're adding to that, which is 8. 8r plus 8. Now things get a little more complicated down here. So this says it's a negative 1, really, times 3a minus 3. So I'm going to rewrite that with a 1 in there. Minus 1. 3a minus 3. Because there's a 1 there, you can put 1 there. All right, it helps me. So now I'm going to take a minus 1 times 3a. So that gives me a negative 3a. Because negative 1 times 3 is 3, and it's a negative because you only have one negative symbol. Now I have a negative 1 times a negative 3. Well, 1 times 3 is 3. A negative times a negative is a positive, so instead of being minus 3, this is actually minus 3a plus 3. All right, slide down, get into a little more complicated ones down here at the bottom. We'll just keep working and work a few all the way through. All right, so now you have minus n plus 4n plus 1. And again, we're supposed to use the distributive property and then combine like terms. Well, this guy here we're just going to leave alone for a little bit, and let's distribute out the 4. So when we do that, we have 4n, because we have 4 times n, and 4 times 1 is 4. But we also still have this negative n, or this minus n over here. So we have a positive 4n minus a 1n. We can put a 1 in here. So that's really 3 n's total plus the 4. Okie doke. Let's move on down to this guy. Here's one of these negative goofy ones here again. So let me rewrite it with minus 1n times a negative n plus 2 minus 2n. Now let's see if I can't distribute that out. Whoops. I'm going to rewrite that again for you. It's a minus 1, and then it's minus n plus 2 minus 2n. Make sure you write the problem correctly. I didn't do it that right that time, and I certainly would have gotten it wrong then. So I'm going to distribute out this negative 1. So negative 1 times, this is really a negative 1n. That's going to be 1n, and it's going to be positive because I have a negative times a negative. Now I have a negative 1 times 2. Well, that's going to be a negative 2, so we're going to say that that's a minus 2. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, or minus 2. Now I also have this minus 2n here. So I've got a positive 1n, and I got a minus 2n. So if I combine these guys here together, I really have a minus n, or minus 1n, and I have minus 2. Okay? All right, let's take a look at this guy here. So we're going to have to distribute out that negative 3, and then we've got this dangling negative 7 out there. So we have a negative 3 times 5, so that gives me minus 15. Now I have a negative 3 times 2x, so 3 times 2 is 6x. And that's a negative times a positive, so it's going to be a minus 6x or a plus a negative 6x. And I still have the minus 7 out there dangling. Well, again, I can't think about that. I can understand this. Here I have a negative 7 and I have a negative 15. So same sign, so I'm going to add them. So that's a minus 22, and I have a minus 6x. That's all we can do. All right. Let's turn the sheet over and try just a couple on the back. These get a little bit harder as they go down. So I'm going to try these last 3 here. All right, now you've got the same thing here. We're going to use the distributive property, and we're going to combine like terms, and we're simplifying. And these are these medium problems. All right, so now we just simply have 2 distributive properties lined up here. So let's go ahead and do them. So 7 times 5, that's going to give me 35 n's. And then I also have to distribute that 7 out to the 8. So 7 times 8 is 56. And that's a negative 8, so it's really 7 times a negative 8. So that's either a plus a negative 56 or just a minus 56. So we're going to put a plus sign in there, because now we're adding that to 6 times 4, which is 24. And then I'm going to take 6 times 6n. Well, 6 times 6 is 36. And there's the n attached to it, so it's really 36n. And that's positive. So now I just have to combine these like terms here. So here I have 35n, and I've got 36n. And they're both positive, so like signs, I'm just going to add those up. So that looks like 71 n's. And we have a minus 56 and a plus 24. So these are different signs. So that says different signs. We subtract and find the difference. So I'll go 56 and 24. That's 2. That's 3. And then I'm going to keep the sign of the absolute value of the larger number, the absolute number that has the largest absolute value, which is negative 56. So I'm going to keep that negative sign. So that's minus 32. Double check. 35 n's, 7 times 5. 36 n's. So there's my 71. Here is my 56. 7 times 8 is negative 56 because it's a minus 8. 6 times 4 is 24. So I'm combining these like terms, and I'm combining these like terms, putting them all together. 71n minus 32. All right, let's take a look at this guy here. So I'm going to maybe move this guy over here. So we have a negative 1 or 5, negative 5 times 1, so that's going to give me minus 5. And I've also got to go minus 5 times 2k. Well, 5 times 2 is 10, and it's 10k. And it was a negative times a positive, so that's a minus. So I can either say it's a minus 10k or plus a negative. I'm just going to go with minus. Now we have a minus 8 times a minus 4. So 8 times 4 is 32. Those are both negative, so that's really a positive 32. And then I have minus 8 times 5. Well, 8 times 5 is 40. And I have to attach the k to it, so it's 40 k's. And it's a negative times a positive, so that's going to give me a negative. So I can either write a plus a negative or a minus 40k. So now I've got some terms I can combine. I can combine the positive 32 and the minus 5. So again, I've got I have different signs. I'm going to find the difference. So 32 minus 5, that's 27. And I keep the sign of the number that has the largest absolute value, and that's 32, and that was a positive 32, so this is going to be a positive 27. And then I've got minus 10k. I'm just going to change that to a plus and negative now to help me think easier. Change this to a plus and negative. So I have a negative 10k and a negative 40k. Well, those are the same signs. So on same signs, you got negative 10 and negative 40. You just add them and keep. So I have a negative 50k. All right, let me double check. Minus 5 and 32, that gives me positive 27. Minus 10k, minus 40k, that's a minus 50k. All right, now we're going down into the super challenging problems. But we can do this. Same type of idea. All right, so I have 9 times n, that's m, that's pretty simple. That's 9m. I've got 9 times 8, and they're both positive, so that's a plus a 72. Now I have to distribute out this other one. I have 11 times 3, and that's 33, and I have to take and attach the m to it, so it's really 33m. Those are both positive, so that's a plus a 33m. Then I have 11 times 4, which is 44. This isn't so tough, is it? So now I've got some different things I can combine. I can combine the 9m and the 33m. So I can go on over here and go 33 plus 9 gives me 42. So I've got 42 m's, and I'm going to add to it some other stuff. I got 72, and I've got a 44. If I add those up, I've got 116 plus 116. Let me just double check. So I have 9 m's and 33 m's. 9m, 33 m's. That looks good. That's 42 m's. And then I got 9 times 8. There's my positive 72. And I have 11 times 4. That's 44. Double check my adding. 2 and 4 is 6. Carry. Nope. 11 and 2 is 6. And then we have 7 and 4. And there's where I carry the 116. So 42m plus 116. All right, try to work through the rest of those problems. The distributed property is probably one of the most important properties there is. So when in terms of simplifying, we have to be able to use that, and combining like terms. These are both key priority 7th grade targets. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.